How's everybody doing today? Uh,
Okay.
John told everyone, but if you're coming in late, I just wanted you to make sure you have like a piece of paper and a writing utensil for the class, just because we'll do something a little different today, just to mix it up. So I like to start the class with a quote. Let me bring it up here. Quote for today's class, just to get you thinking on our theme. Somewhere in this process, you will come face to face with a sudden and shocking realization that you are completely crazy. Your mind is a shrieking, gibbering madhouse on wheels, barreling pell-mell down the hill, utterly out of control and hopeless. No problem. You are not crazier than you were yesterday. It has always been this way, and you just never noticed. You're also no crazier than everybody else around you. The only real difference is that you have confronted the situation and they have not. And that was said by Hanapola Gunaratna. So back to the book. Today, let's see, we are in still Dojo Etiquette, preparing for training, number 6. This is a good one. All participants should be sitting in attentive meditation when it's time for the class to begin. I have been to many classes in Maui, in Arizona, and many dojos, seminars in Europe, seminars on the mainland, where that is not the case. People are milling around. Even, in our dojo, you haven't seen somebody in a while, or you're distracted with some sort of business, you're not lined up. You're not ready. You're not sitting in meditation. You'll see a few that are, but then there's, all right, okay, I'm going to do a little stretching over here. I'm going to talk to this person over here about dojo business. Maybe I'm running late. Whatever the reason, this happens, and it says a lot about a dojo. It says a lot about a teacher, and it says a lot about you as a student. If that's happening to either you, or is it happening at the dojo, or is just the teacher not ever saying anything about it? It just says a lot, of what you're training, why you're training. So Kurta Sensei's real stickler, and Suzuki Sensei was a major stickler on this, just being ready, just, 15 minutes prior to class starting, everyone should be in the process of lining up, ready for class, getting settled. It's kind of like when I tell the beginners, I often tell the beginners, like, hey, whatever happened to you during the day, you could put it in your backpack and leave it in your car or outside the dojo, but when you come in and you bow to the showman, just let everything wash away and just start anew. And that's kind of like what we do when we're getting ready. We're setting up the class and getting ready to train. And, Kurta Sensei always sits in his office prior to class. And the last, he shoos everybody's kind of congregating in his office, talking about dojo business or just whatever. But let me tell you about, an hour before class is going to start, people are maybe doing that, but 30 minutes prior, people are out of there. And he's preparing for the class. And, Kurta Sensei wrote a whole chapter, of course, on meditation, chapter 6 of this book. But I wanted to give you just some of my tips on meditation and just what's happened to me, because I've had a lot of weird things happen, a lot of interesting things sometimes. But before we get to that, this is where the piece of paper and the pencil or pen comes in handy. I want you just to answer. I'm not going to probably ask you I'm not going to ask you for your answers unless you're a teacher. But I want you to answer these 3 questions they're very similar questions you've probably been asked before. Even Curtis Sensei may have brought these up. I know he's asked me these questions in the past. The first question is, do you prefer meditation or key breathing? That's the first question. It doesn't matter, whatever you see fit, whatever you like. I know for me, I went through various stages of liking one or the other better. The question number two, do you prefer morning or evening meditation or breathing practice? You prefer to do it in the morning, you prefer to do it in the evening. And the third question is, in one word, why? Why do you breathe or meditate? So you can go ahead and write those down. And for me, this brings up. Let's see, the person is not here. There's a person in Maui, and they have, during you may have listened to some of the question and answers for the seminar or some of the classes that Curtis Sensei has done, and there's one person in particular who doesn't like breathing practice. He's a long time meditator, has been meditating for years and years and years, but just never really liked key breathing. Just didn't like it. And he always brings up and asks Sensei questions, and Sensei kind of fixes him. And then he's good for a few months, and then he's back to like not liking it again. And I have to say, I went through a process to where I loved key breathing, and that's all I did. I did not like meditation at all. And then I started studying Zen. When I was in Arizona, I studied Zen for about 3 years, Rinzai Zen. And then I really fell in love with meditation, and that's all I like to do. I didn't like to do key breathing at all. Just want to do meditation. And it cycled through to where now I have a little routine that I do myself. And even Suzuki Sensei had his routine because he valued both of the practices. And as I once heard Curtis Sensei, or multiple times Curtis Sensei say, breathing or meditation, different sides to the same coin. It's the same thing, just one side is breathing, the other side is meditation. So, you know, that's some of the things with that question number one. Morning or evening. I remember I got big into this because Curtis Sensei, Suzuki Sensei are always big on breathing in the morning. So much so that I went and asked my Japanese friend, "Hey, translate this for me. Does this say morning or evening in the shokushu, right?" And the person came out to me and said, "Yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean the morning. It doesn't mean the evening. It's kind of like at midnight. Is it morning or is it evening? You could go one way or the other." I was such a stickler on it, but I'm of the point that it's beneficial if you can do it in the morning, but I know from personal experience sometimes that's not possible. It can be impossible sometimes. Uh, it may not be convenient, but that doesn't say that you can't do it in the evenings. That's fine too. I think you'll come to a time in your training that you're going to go, "Oh yeah, this fits me perfect," and that's what it's all about: is finding your schedule and finding how it helps you, benefits your training. And then with the third one of why do you practice, I think that's a very personal question that everyone can answer. Uh, and people don't like to talk about it. Why do you do this? And I say that because you know the reasons that people give are usually come into they're usually coming from a place that is not, I don't want to say sincere, but it's not sincere. It's usually, I like to call them like these little realms that you kind of go through, and I've experienced them all. You know, uh, the first one, like I was reading a book by Choyam Trungpa. I've read a lot of his books, and he said when they teach the Tibetan monks how to meditate, they'll tie a string across the meditation place, and they're all sitting, on a cushion, and their noses are, are touching the string, and if they move, they get hit. And I was listening to a conversation and one guy was being interviewed and said, wow, that must be, that's a really intense practice. You could never do that in the United States. He goes, what did you get out of it? What trained you to not sit this way? And he said, the only thing it taught me was to sit perfectly still. It didn't teach me meditation at all. In fact, it was torture, you know? And I think that's more like, if you're living in hell, that's what hell would be like, just nonstop torture, you know. So that isn't good if you're doing it because you feel forced to sit or forced to breathe. Yeah, you're really probably not going to benefit from it, you know. And then you get to the next, this other, these realms aren't in any kind of order, but this other realm I would say is, if you're looking for some kind of attainment. Suzuki Sensei, I remember we went to a seminar and it was me, myself, my friend, my very good friend Mayumi, and another gentleman, Pat Olstead. We came to Maui, we were coming to the seminar, and we would always get these little private classes with Suzuki Sensei. And in one of these classes, we were talking to Suzuki Sensei because he was giving a little insight of his key breathing practice, and we were like, just like, wow, this is really interesting. What's he going to say? And he was going to say, well, if you want to be a good Aikidoist, you'll do all the training. You'll know the Hattori Waza, you'll know how to do all the techniques, you'll have all the katas down. But if you want to be a great Aikidoist, then you'll do key breathing. You'll practice the inner disciplines. And I remember saying that, thinking, wow, yeah, he's right. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So, took it to heart. We're back in Arizona. And in Arizona, the dojo was set up to where the women's locker room was a little box of sorts with walls with no roof right outside the mat, the training area. So the women were going there and train, and I had come early because Mayumi and I were going to do some practicing. And I'm dressed, I'm coming through the dojo, and I hear her in the women's locker room. I go, so, Mayumi, did you do your breathing this morning? And she went, no, I didn't do my breathing this morning, but I guess you did, didn't you? And I went, yep, sure did. And she goes, well, I guess you'll be the great Aikidoist in a bunch. And I just felt like a jerk for prodding her, but she had had a bad day, and I was in that realm. I was in the, I'm gonna be somebody. I'm doing my breathing every day, so this is really really good. I'm getting a lot out of it. But it was an attitude of greed. I was really cultivating, really wanting to, looking outside myself, really, seeking something, and that's really not what you want to do either. And then I remember I was teaching a class. Um, I was teaching a class one day in Maui, and John Hara, who was in that class, and I gave a little spiel about, if you're doing this to get something out of it, your practice is in the wrong reasons. You don't want to get something out of it, like feeling relaxed. Oh, I feel really refreshed after meditating or breathing. Oh, I feel really good. That's, or a lot of people will fall asleep, during meditation, and that is really, you're in the self-help section of the book aisle there. Your meditation is actually very dull, and it can't really move deeper if it can't have any deeper levels if you're stuck in just this relaxation mode of feeling refreshed, feeling good about yourself, in the sense that, oh, it's really doing my body good type thing. Nothing wrong with that, but you'll never have any deeper experiences. And the realm that I know a lot of people get into is of, I'm going to win. This competition. Oh, how many hours did you breathe this morning? I did 2. Oh, I did 3. And I remember telling one person, Suzuki Sensei was really an inspiration, because anytime he said, I did 3 hours of breathing today, or I did 2 hours of breathing, there was never any intention or uh, bravado. He wasn't bragging, and it didn't come across as bragging. But like, if I would say that kind of thing, it would sound horrible, because I'm not at the level he was at, and he's just like, he was just expressing his inspiration, really trying to help people, build momentum. And that's a lot of what this is a to Toy Sensei calls meditation kino ishiho, or building willpower. And all that is building momentum. Like when you roll a ball down the hill, it builds up momentum and goes faster and faster and faster. And that's all really Suzuki Sensei was doing when he was telling everyone. But, don't get in the habit, especially if you're a teacher, of telling your students, well, I did 2 hours of breathing this morning. How many did you do? It won't come across the same way. I'm just telling you, it just won't, you know. Um, and then the fifth one that I always kind of comment on, and that is, and it's kind of related to this winning attitude, is being proud, you know being, feeling that you are superior, that you are, holding forth and basically saying, yes, I'm, answering the questions about breathing, please come to me, that kind of thing. It just comes off, as you're just very, you're compensating for something, compensating for a doubt. Maybe you have confidence issues or ability issues, but you're kind of putting forth this attitude of being proud of what you're doing and prideful. And then I'd say the last one is desire. It's using it as a transaction. If I do this, I get this. And I think that's very common in this training, is basically stating, I'm going to do this, and then I expect this. If I do A, then I'll get B. If I keep 1 point, I will get this. This is very prescriptive. And we can't think of meditation as prescriptive. It's not. Meditation is hard. It's, very, very difficult, because you're sitting alone in your own stuff, in your own garbage of life. Life is not easy. It's one of those things that we're all going through, and especially during this time. Curtis Sensei said, he likes to have these classes. I think it was either in Sunday's class or Friday's class, where he said, you know, if you don't think something's going on with your mind body, I'm telling you, probably in your subconscious it is, because this situation that we're in, even myself, and I've not lost my job, I'm busier than ever, I'm an essential worker, and it still is not fun for me. I mean, I miss going to the dojo, I miss hanging out with my friends. I'm stuck between here and work. And then I have these Zoom classes that I can do every once in a while with you guys and with Curtis Sensei, which is good. So that's happening. So, I would like to ask some questions, not necessarily the questions I've already had you answered, but maybe let's hear from Lillian Paiva Sensei. Lillian Paiva Sensei is the head instructor of the dojo Honoka'a, which someday, Curtis Sensei and I went there one time, visited her dojo, and I've always thought to myself, I'm going to go to that dojo and hang out with Lillian, because it's so cool. Lillian.
Thank you, Sensei. So, what would you like me to say?
Yeah, I'd like you to comment. Say anything you want.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go.
Questions, if you want me to, I can ask.
Well, I thought you were gonna ask a question.
So, did you do your breathing this morning, Lillian?
Okay, so here's the fun part. Me and Curtis Sensei have had this conversation so many times. I am a night breather.
Okay, good.
I um I am so pre-wired to not being a morning person that I have been told by everybody I ever worked with that if I don't drink coffee, I'm a horrible person.
Nice.
So I do breathe at night. If I try to breathe in the morning, then I'm just it's lagging, it's tiring, it's not true meditation. So I find my house is little. So in the evening when everybody else has gone to sleep and my house is quiet, I have a couple little spots I can go to in the house. And it's kind of funny because kind of gotten into a habit of where I start off with about, I don't know, somewhere around 10, 15 minutes of key breathing. And I do the key breathing. And without thinking about it, it automatically goes into Shuchu Ho Kako Dat Ho. And I just stay there and for my meditation. And if I miss my meditation, I feel like um, like I've had a hiccup, like I somehow let go of somebody's hand, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I know that feeling.
And I would love for you to come to our dojo. You're one of the many legends I talk about.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll tell you something, Lillian. Okay, so Shinichi Sensei was giving a seminar here on Maui, and we had put him in a house, well, it was a house down by Ma'alaya. It was Sean O'Neill's house down there, and uh, about, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night, I get a phone call from Sachiko. Tracy, there is a very loud noise in our place, and we will be unable to sleep if this noise doesn't go away. I went, okay. Can you describe the noise? And she said, okay, I will hold the phone closest to the location of where we think the sound is coming from. And she holds up the phone, and I hear beep. It's a freaking fire alarm. One of those little, when the battery gets dead. Well, this one was really noisy. I went, oh, Sachiko-san, I will be right there. So I immediately start driving down there, and I'm thinking I'm gonna just take the battery out. It's not gonna be a deal. We get to this place. I get to this place. She lets me in. I can't see. I don't know where Shinichi is, but I look up. It's a freaking A-frame house, and the freaking fire alarm is about 20 feet up the wall. Can't reach it. And I'm thinking, shit, how the hell am I going to do this? Well, he's not here. I'll call the answer man. Fincher, got a ladder? Fincher answers the phone. He's got a ladder. I said, dude, get your ass down here. We got to take care of this fire alarm. Major, major problem. Shinichi Sensei and Sachiko cannot sleep as a result of this. Okay, be right down. So in the meantime, I'm talking to Sachiko. But here, Lillian, this is what I noticed. Shinichi Sensei was key breathing at night out on the patio the whole time this was going on. He was like, I don't know if he checked out and said, I'm just going to go do some key breathing, or if he's a night breather like you, but he was out there on the porch, key breathing, while Sachiko and I are making small talk as best I can, looking at that damn fire alarm, going, damn, I wish I could reach that thing. But Fisher came over, we took off the fire alarm, pulled the battery out, and said, we are so sorry, sumimasen, and we left. And I was, thank God Fincher had a ladder. That's all I'm saying, because I didn't. But again, he was night breathing as a result. So I thought that was, very interesting. He didn't even come out, say thank you, nothing. We didn't interact him with all. When I got there, he was key breathing. When I left, he was key breathing. So, and it was all at night. So I say that's a good sign. No problem there. So let's see, who else? Charles Boyer Sensei, can you give some comments on your breathing, meditation, anything on I said?
Sure. Thank you. And I must say, I'm very much enjoying the stories tonight. Yeah.
I'll probably get word from Curtis and say I shouldn't have said that one. Every once in a while.
No, it's great. Please continue. So I guess the first 10 years, 12, 15 years of my practice, I would almost do exclusively key breathing. Once in a while, I would switch it to key meditation. I breathe or do sit in the morning as a rule, and have the entire time. Although sometimes I'll do a second session in the evening if I'm alone. If I have the house to myself, I'll sometimes, and I'm not busy, I'll do something like that. But lately, the last maybe 10 years, I've been doing almost exclusively key meditation or some meditation. Recently, actually, more whole body meditation is what I've been practicing. And when I talk about it to my students, when I talk about it in the dojo, I do tell them that I encourage them to sit every day. I do mention more or less how long I sit so that they have an idea. But you now are making me wonder whether I should include that information. But yeah, it's really important for me personally, and I must say that there is, of course, uh, a lot of work on being proud about it and big-headed about it and full of myself. I'm getting to see that part of myself a lot lately. Um, yeah, and we all have this competitiveness, right? So that does come out occasionally. Although I usually don't, it doesn't come out so much with sitting. I don't really talk about it to my friends or people in other dojos about it too much. But yeah, I mean, even just the last week in my class, I encourage the students to practice key meditation or breathing, uh, and to do it regularly. I actually talked about it like brushing your teeth. You know, when we're young, we have to be told, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. You know, our parents tell, brush your teeth, and then at some point we don't have to be told anymore. We all do it, right? It's because we know, oh, this is pretty important. And so I said, we want key meditation to be like this, right? Of course, it happens in its own way for each of us, I think. But at the beginning, we have to be told, sit, sit, sit. You want to learn, sit. You want to understand, sit. But anyway, that's my little bit on sitting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, that's really good. And I'm not saying you shouldn't tell people, your students or whatever. I mean, I'm telling you, the first time I came to the Maui Dojo, 1997, something like that. It was after a seminar, and we were all sitting there in the old dojo, and Suzuki Sensei sitting over in the area, and Curtis Sensei comes out. So, show of hands. How many people did their breathing this morning? And I don't know, but I couldn't raise my hand because I didn't do it because I didn't know, because my teachers didn't emphasize it at the time. And all I know is I looked to the left, looked to the right, and nobody else was raising their hand. I didn't look behind me, but obviously there was not very many people raising their hand because Curtis Sensei goes, "What do you mean? You're in the mecca of breathing? Suzuki Sensei is right back there, and none of you did your breathing this morning?" And I was just like, I called it the fear of God speech. But then, that was then. And this, I mean, I'm telling you, this was a few years ago. We were at a little meditation seminar here at the dojo. And he told people, he goes, "I'd like you guys to do the 3 threes." And we were like, "What's that? What's that?" And there's a bunch of new people there, and I'm thinking, "What the hell is he gonna? What's this?" And so he's off the reservation here with this new thing I've not heard of. He goes, 30. He goes, what did he say? He said, 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out for 10 minutes. Those 3 things I want you to do every morning. 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out for 10 minutes. So there he is, really harping on breathing in 1990, in the 90s, in the early 80s. And that was a Suzuki Sensei thing for sure, to where he said, and I said later on, I went into the changing room with him. I said, "Sensei, wow, that's a big difference. 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out for 10 minutes. 3 tens, he called it, I think. I can't quite remember, but he goes, "Well, Trace, I've come to the realization that I want to make it user friendly so people at least get a taste of it." And I thought, oh, yeah. That's really good. 10 seconds out, or 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out for 10 minutes. Just do 10 minutes. He was just wanting people to do 10 minutes. And I tell students today, I say, if you're having a bad day, if you're having a rough spot, take 10 minutes aside and do 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out for 10 minutes. And you'll see how it changes your mind body, you know? So with that being said, I would like to call on Melly Stokesbury Sensei. Melly, could you please comment?
Okay, well, I wrote that down because I think that's very good idea. I don't think I heard Sensei say that, but I often think that I'd like to tell my people in my family about breathing and help young people. And it's a very good way to get people started. I'm going to remember that. I've written it down and I'll use it. But to answer your questions, I'm a morning breather, and I've really been liking the feeling of breathing with everybody else in the world at 5 a.m. during this time we're down. I haven't been real consistent about being a breathing and meditation regular person, although years ago I used to all the time and I would just breathe for an hour. Then, and I didn't do very much meditation. Now I'm really trying to do both, and I really like starting at 5, and it's really making me feel like I have a good start to my day and a routine and a feeling of alertness and awakeness and key extension early in the morning. Like, because our life is so amorphous right now. We're all, maybe not all of us, you're working, but a lot of us are like not doing any of our usual routines. It's so grounding to do this. And for me, it's the morning. That's about all I've got to say, Tracy, right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Melly. Yeah, that's a good point. Of sharing. Suzuki Sensei always referred to it as the interdiscipline training. If you want the secret to Aikido, it's the interdiscipline training, folks. And he really talked about breathing and meditation and Masogi, and and by Masogi I mean Shokushin no Gyo, Bell Masogi. But the breathing meditation part, he was really big on. I think I told you in the first class, we talk about awareness because when you walk in the dojo, there's a big bronze plaque that has Suzuki Sensei's picture, and it says 3 words: breathe, breathe, breathe. Nothing more says it like that. He was the master breather. He loved breathing. And it's not to say that he didn't have errors in his training, and I don't know if I'd call this an error. It's quite funny, and most of you may know this story already. But he was talking to Toy Sensei when one time Toy Sensei was here on Maui, and they'd been drinking scotch, and then Suzuki Sensei would always say, if you ever want to know the interdiscipline training with Toy Sensei, drink scotch with him, and then he lets it flow. He's usually very restrictive a little bit in the beginning, but when his scotch comes out, he tells you everything. He tells me all the secrets. So he's walking home walking back to his hotel or something, and they were discussing breathing. And he said, Suzuki-san, you breathe just like I told you. I told you to do 1 hour every day. You did it. But now you need to take your training even deeper. You need to do this special meditation. And Suzuki said, what meditation is that, Sensei? He said, you got to make this mudra, Twitsuno-en mudra. And what I want you to do is you make that mudra, hold it directly over your head for 1 hour every day. 1 hour every day. Make this mudra over your head. This is very good training for you, Suzuki-san. You should do this. Hi, Sensei, I'll do it. So Suzuki-sensei did this training, but try this because doing this for 1 hour, he said, as soon as it touched his head, time's off, doesn't count, start over, because it touched his head. It took him 1 year to be able to hold his arms over his head into its no in 1 year to do it for 1 hour. So then he felt comfortable to start his timeline for doing it for 1 year. It took him a year to do it. So in the middle of this training, Maruyama Sensei had come to give a seminar in Maui, and he told Maruyama, Sensei, Sensei assigned me this special training. Puts no in over my head for 1 hour, and I'm in the middle of it. I've been doing it for 1 hour ever since. And as Maruyama looks at him and goes, what? Were you drinking scotch with Toi Sensei when he told you to do that? Well, as a matter of fact, he was. That isn't the training. He was drunk. You put it out in front of you for 1 hour, not over your head. And he went, I'm still going to do it over my head for 1 year. It took me 1 year to do it. I'm going to do it anyway. Because that was his mindset. He was so focused on doing the training, just like his teacher said, he did it. And he often told that story out of jest, saying, it was out of willpower. And, Kino Ishiho is meditation, willpower. He had the willpower to train his mind body to hold his arms over his head in Tuetsunuin for 1 year. It took him 1 year. He did it. And then he decided to do that meditation for a year just because of all the work he did, the mind power, the willpower, he wanted to do it. So, yeah, give him credit. I think that's one of those things where, he really was into training, and that's what he was. So with that in mind, Olaf Schubart Sensei, could you give us your comments on breathing and meditation?
Yeah, why not? So this class we are having right now is actually in the time I would usually do my morning sitting. So, and I'm basically along the lines what Boya Sensei said. It's the same for me. I started out doing key breathing exclusively, basically, and not counting what I did before Ki Aikido, so the Zen meditation and all that. But when I started with Ki Aikido, I did the key breathing exclusively, and over the years have included more and more of meditation. So I basically have a pattern where I start with meditation to get into the call it state, and then do the key breathing for time, and then end the session also with some quiet sitting. So it's I don't start with breathing and then stop and then go about my day. So it's kind of packed in between sittings. Okay, this is what I do and find good for me.
And how do you transmit this to your students? How do you talk to them about it?
Well, in the beginning, I was kind of like Curtis Sensei, a little bit of militant about it. And over the years, I have come to basically the same realization. It doesn't help if you push your students to do it, because it rather pushes them away from the practice. Because telling them to do it 1 hour, if you do less, it's worthless. Then they will just decide, okay, then it's not for me then. So for quite some time, I've been telling them, it doesn't matter if you do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The main thing is that you do it every day. But same, it's again, the main thing you do it is every day. Yeah, it's true. I still believe that. But it's not very enticing for the student. It's again, I'm not living up to the standard. So it puts internal dialogue into their heads, and they feel bad about themselves immediately as soon as I put up a marker like that. Okay, so I'm just happy and lucky. I can consider myself lucky if they do it at all. I mean, basically. And it's, in my experience, it's hard to tell in the beginning which students will actually pick it up and which students won't. It often surprises me that students I would have never thought that they do that. They do 1 hour every day, and I don't know why, but they do. And then I have students who have been with me for 20 years now. I mean, our dojo is almost 20 years old, and they barely do any of that. So it's very strange. It comes down to personality, and I think it has, at least in my dojo, it has basically nothing to do with rank or how long they are in the dojo. It's whether they are interested in this kind of practice or not. This is my experience. Of course, there are overlaps, but
Sure. Thank you so much, Schubert Sensei. I'd like to call on Sayaka Sensei. Sayaka, can you talk? Her eyes just got really big. Uh, Sayaka, you trained at headquarters, so can you give us how did they teach key breathing, and how do they promote the practice of key breathing?
At the headquarters,
Yes.
They say it's the basic of the training, and they told us that we have to practice every day. And in matter of fact, it was a homework for the summer vacation and winter vacation for us students, and we had to record how much we did key meditation and key breathing every day, and we had to submit to Shin Sensei. But it was good training. I'm a night meditator. I can not do in the morning, and I talked about it with Sensei, and he said it's okay. And I started meditation in the night because I read Tohei Sensei's book, and he specifically said do in the night. So I started originally in the night, and I'm continuing. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you, Sayaka. That's good. That's good information. And Sayaka was a Gakuen student, so yes, she had to do homework and log her time during her summer breaks. Something probably your students aren't doing, but not a bad idea if they're really into it, as if they're very serious about it. I would like to ask. Let's see here. Oh yeah, okay. Toby Vogel Sensei hasn't spoken yet, but I'm sure he'd like to.
Thank you, Sensei. I'd love to. I have a hate-love relationship with breathing and meditation, Sensei. It's one of the worst things in my practice. It's I find it really difficult. I like to meditate, to just sit and rest. Morning, evening, there's always trouble with that because of the daily schedule that we have. I'm always up late, so getting up early in the morning is difficult. So it's preferable to do it in the evening. But that changes over time. It always changes. Then why I do it, I have no idea. I have no idea why. Because I Curtis Sensei told me to do it. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And then that changes to, why am I doing this? Then I said, okay, I feel good about it when I sit, and I'm really calm when I sit. Okay, that's a good reason to do it. Then that, after a while, it's terrible. It's not as calming as I thought it would be. So then again, struggle in my head, conversations going on. So then I want to figure out what's going on. Why everybody is saying this? Why is everybody doing this? So I want to know. That is probably the reason why. I want to know why people are always talking about it. That you should do it. It makes you feel so good. And I know you should not talk about the result, but you can see the results in people. So what is it that is going on there? So the curiosity is probably the motivation, but it's, terrible. Sometimes the 10 minutes is maybe the limit. Sometimes 1.5 hours, 2 hours, yes, but it's terrible. Sorry to say this, because everybody's talking about how pleasant and how this is really a struggle for me. Yeah.
Well, I think that's fine, because with great struggle comes great fruition. You've got to,
I'm still waiting for that, Sensei.
That's good. That's good. It may never come, but who knows? This one meditation teacher always says, put your breath, your attention on the breath, and then eventually your attention falls off and you're going to think about stuff. It could be good stuff. It could be bad stuff. It's just going to be stuff. But then there's going to come one point, and that one point is you're going to realize, oh, I'm not meditating. So the only thing to do is not beat yourself up, not get upset, not do it, just to go, oh yeah, my awareness goes right back on the breath. And then eventually it's going to fall off. And then you're going to find that the moments are going to come closer together of when you notice. And that's the big point of any training, is just noticing, yes, it's terrible. Yes, it's good. Yes, it's whatever it is. It's, this one teacher gives a little meditation exercise. He says, think of your body as a mountain, which is immovable. Your mind is like the sky, and it has many clouds going, and those are the thoughts. The clouds come, the clouds go. There could be a major storm coming. It could be clear and beautiful. And then your breath is like the breeze. It's like the wind. And just if you think about those three things during your meditation, if your posture suffering, mountain, immovable, keeping one point. And then, maybe you're thinking about a lot of stuff. Is it stormy type of thoughts, or is it pleasant type of thoughts? Never mind the clouds come and go. But then just constantly put your attention, your mind on the breath, on the wind. So I think that's a good exercise. I often do this exercise myself. This is just one of the little things I do, because I found it, it's a useful tool. That's why you have to think of these things. They're tools, So I'd like to call on a non-teacher, unless she is a teacher. Ilaria, I know you can talk. I know you got a microphone. I know you're chomping at the bit. Talk to me.
Sensei, how did I know you were going to call? My name is Ilaria from this Seattle Key Aikido. I have a question. When I sit and when I meditate, I don't know if I should include my awareness. Well, I guess I do know, but I still wonder, should I include my awareness of everything outside of my body, or just my breathing or my one? Because when people about key, extent, and awareness, like Curtis Sensei's exercise to have everyone close their eyes and listen to everything around them, I feel like doing that and breathing, or doing that and sitting, is kind of like doing two things at once.
So were you there on Sunday? On Sunday's meditation breathing session? And
yes.
Curtis Sensei referred to the rooster situation he had going on in haiku, where the roosters would be noisy, and he was thinking, at first he would sit and he would think, this is really cool, then the roosters start going off, and then his mind's like, God damn those things, and he's like, this is disturbing me. And then he learned to accept it. And it reminds me of a story. There's a guy, he was, I don't know what kind of training he did, but he had come to Maui to do this retreat. He was staying at the Grand Wailea Hotel. He's thinking, I'm on Maui, this is beautiful. He goes out in this little yard area he finds secluded at the Grand Wailea. sits and starts his meditation. It's early in the morning, just the sun had just rose. And next thing you know, he hears a lawnmower and a weed whacker go off. And he's like, F-bomb, 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 what the hell is going on here? I'm here to meditate, and these guys are ruining my meditation. I think you should include it because it's all you. The noise is going off. It's like that cloud coming in, and it's gonna pass. So go ahead. Go ahead. You raised your hand, so
Okay, I didn't mean distraction because I understand that. I just meant like usually I sit at night and
Mhm.
and it's usually quiet, and like right now it's raining, and so if I were in meditation, the rain would be included in that, but it's
Yeah.
not a distraction. Like loud noises, people talking still distract me. So whatever, like small, because there's always sounds happening. Should I be focused on that at the same time that I'm focused on myself? I breathing my 1 point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's definitely do that. In fact, you can actually use it as a tool to go deeper. That's a whole point of when people tend to think I sat Rinzai Zen, and Rinzai style Zen, they have a keisaku, and that's a little stick they hit you with if you're off kilter or falling asleep. They whack you. But it got into a competitive thing back in the day. But what it's really really used for was if the person monitoring the meditators, if he saw you were really zoned in, and there was a a hint that you could go deeper, he hit you to help you go deeper into your meditation. Of course, being human beings and competitive, it got to be a little competition thing of just hitting people you didn't like. But originally, that's what it was used for, is to help you go deeper in the meditation. And actually, Suzuki Sensei and Curtis Sensei would use to a ki at the towards the end of our meditation. He would ki to send it to your 1 point, to allow you to go deeper into your meditation. And that and Suzuki Sensei at his 80th birthday broke the microphone. He ki'd so loud. The microphone broke. And I know people at our dojo, Curtis Sensei always says people will jump or move around or collapse, during, meditation, and they hear a loud sound or a loud PI, and they get real shocked, and that's actually what you want to do. But if you're stuck in thought, you'll jolt you. But if you're really empty and allow it to go straight to your 1 point, it sends you into a deeper state, guaranteed. So yeah, I mean, does anybody else want to comment, or we have a few minutes left? I'm opening the floor. You could just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Anybody chomping at the bit to tell us your meditation situation? It's always good to volunteer. But if not, I have a book that I'm going to read a quote from. Let me see. Ooh, let me get this up here. This is called Key Meditations. This was written in 1974. It's called Kino Seizaho, and it was written in 1974 by a very young Koichi Tohei sensei. These little manuals, there's a bunch of them, and I just was digging around my bookshelf at home, and I said, oh yeah, these little books. Sure, there's a few jewels in there I can share with the students on Monday, and there happens to be a couple. But I want to share specifically a story because this story relates to Yamoka Teshu. And if you recall, if you ever get a chance to look at Curtis Sensei's meditation room, he has a very nice picture of Yamoka Teshu on his meditation area. So just to give you some feedback, Yamoka Teshu, very famous. He's one of the three shoes of Japan. During the Meiji, he brought the Japanese out of the Meiji period. He helped negotiate the peace treaty between the shogun and the emperor to bring Japan into the world. and very famous guy, very famous swordsman, Zen practitioner, and calligrapher. So calligraphy is very, very famous. And I took Curtis Sensei to his dojo and Zendo in Tokyo. You know, I knew how important this guy was, and of course, when you're Curtis Sensei's a Tomo, you want to find cool, interesting things to do to make up the time while you're touring. And I took Curtis Sensei there a couple times actually. First time it was just me and him. Yeah, but actually both times it was just me and him. Sayaka gave me the directions. We show up at the shrine. There's a huge gold statue of Avala, or no, I don't know the Zen name, Kanan they call her, the goddess of compassion. Also, the dojo there it was closed when we went there. Super nice. I took a picture of the sign outside the Zendo, and it said Kenzo on, which is live life completely. So this sign at Yamaoka Teshu's dojo, Ken Shoan, means exactly what Curtis Sensei always said, and Suzuki Sensei especially, is live life completely. And I thought that was so appropriate. But this story, as told by Toi Sensei, so mind you, it's told in a Japanese sense, so the last name is first and the first name is last. One day, Teshu Yamaoka was walking a country road with several other men when they were caught in a sudden heavy thunderstorm, and lightning flashed and thunder filled the air. In their hearts, everyone except Yamaoka wanted to shelter themselves from the rain under the eaves of a home they had just walked by. But because no one wanted to be the first to suggest it, they continued walking obstinately on in the thunderstorm, pretending the storm didn't bother them. Suddenly, accompanied by a loud clap of thunder, lightning struck very near them, startled them instantly, and they all fell to the ground. If all of them had done this, it would have seemed perfectly natural and the only thing to do. But one man had merely stood with his arms crossed. He was Teshu Yamaoka. His amazed companion asked him, "Were you not surprised?" Yamaoka answered sadly, "No, I didn't have time to be surprised. It happened too fast." Most of us are startled because things happen too fast and needlessly over-anxiously react. Teshu Yamaoka was always practicing and living Zen. Thus, at the time when lightning struck, his mind and body were naturally unified. Because of this, lightning and thunder was absorbed in his one point, and he did not have time to be surprised. By practicing Kino Ishiho eagerly and diligently, we can develop true hara, or true one point. So with that, I'll let the night go on in the morning in Europe. Thanks a lot for joining us. Please do your key breathing and meditation, and I'll see you next week.